Hello, everyone. Welcome to Living Sufism 2021. Before we begin, I'd like to thank you, not just for joining us today, but in particular for the generosity of your donations. It's very much appreciated that you help us and support us in this effort. Part of what we're hoping and planning to do is to develop more online capacity, develop more online experiences. Certainly over the last year, we have probably all come to realize that online is now a significant part of human communications. And your support, your donations, help us and give us an impetus to, as it were, build the beloved community online. Before we begin, dive into the theme for today, the original you, it'll be helpful to provide a sort of an overview of the larger context of living Sufism this year, which we have entitled The Beloved Community. Over the last year, we've all experienced quite significant challenges. Collectively, and many of us individually have suffered, have had a hard time. Part of that difficulty has to do with the question that many of us ask, what do I do? How do I relate to this world the way that it is now? Since the pandemic broke here in the United States, Pierre Elias has been offering very interesting guidance on this very subject through his notes from the Open Path. As we read the notes, especially the notes of 2020, I think that you will see that Elias has not only been providing some very interesting indications of how to address this question of what do I do? How do I live? How do I engage with this world? In rather practical, doable ways within a deeper, open, spiritual context, so that if we can pick up on the guidance in the notes from the Open Path, we would find that our actions not only lead towards more effective, in my opinion, more productive responses, but also they will be aligned with and rooted in a larger spiritual context. As we observed this over the spring and summer, and in particular for us in September when Elias posted Beloved Community, that particular essay in the notes from the Open Path, it occurred to us that this was a wonderful way to create a framework for engagement, for action. And indeed, part of what we're looking for here, I think certainly many of us personally, but also collectively, not just within the Sufi Way community, but in the larger embrace of all of the communities that we touch, what we're looking for is meaningful ways to respond to what is happening. In my feeling, the next months in the springtime, as we, I hope, emerge out of lockdown and take off our masks, I believe that we will find a sort of a pent-up energy, a commitment to wanting to respond more effectively, more faithfully to what is at hand. Certainly, the other side of how difficult this pandemic and climate change and racial and social injustice and political chaos, the flip side of all of that is that it represents an enormous opportunity for renewal. And it is our hope that Living Sufism will, in its own small way, help support each and all of us in that renewal. And so for the last 6 months or so, Isha Francis, Suzanne Inayat Khan, Carol Barrow, and myself, we've been working on this idea of presenting to you, offering to you a view of the beloved community that provides us a way to respond, a way to engage with that idea, with that reality, in effect. In doing this, we have a couple of goals. One is that to the extent that it's possible for us, that we would encourage, stimulate, inspire action. On some level, in the most deep and personal way, but also in terms of our local environments, in terms of our real worlds, in terms of our communities, wherever we are in the world, and we're kind of everywhere in the world. That somehow through this Living Sufism series, we might be able to suggest and stimulate ideas that provide entry points into actually living the beloved community, in supporting and being supported by beloved community, whatever that means to you. The other intention that we have in doing this is to develop our capacity to use this technology more effectively to generate experience and, in the highest sense, to explore what extent is it possible for transmission to occur, not just communication, but transmission to occur in this space. So we're experimenting. We think that we're being creative, but it's very possible that we're just being clumsy. This is technology that is new for all of us, and by now we're probably all familiar with how frustrating it can be. So, we ask your indulgence at the inevitable glitches and hiccups that we will experience along the way, and hope that you will, stay with us and help us to the extent that you can to really understand how best to use this, to fine tune our approach. What we're doing is moving away from the Maestro platform on which we had previously been conducting Living Sufism. But as you know, Maestro is only audio and actually only speech. It doesn't support music very well. Now, here we are in Zoom, where we have the possibility of using more dynamic forms of communication and media. And so that's the other intention here, to really tap this technology and put it to use in this work. And in effect, and this has been a hope and an aspiration of mine for years, that we would begin to instance beloved community in cyberspace, online. That's sort of the framing of what we're going to do. Another important element of this is that our intention here is not to create a series of discrete events, but to create one event starting now, concluding in June. This event is an exploration of beloved community in the largest sense. It is based on our reading and understanding of Elias's notes from the Open Path, but it is not about specifically taking these notes and reading them and understanding them and commenting on them. That's something that you are encouraged to do on your own. And you will find the notes that Elias suggested that we use for this program on the Living Sufism web space. And I'll say a little bit more about the web space towards the end of our session. So in that sense, when we think of January to June as a process, as one journey, if you will, then each of these sessions is a kind of a thread that gets braided into a larger stream, a rope, if you will, that carries us forward. We've been, the four of us have been playing with metaphors about this. And clearly, for me, this is an invitation to a caravan in the Sufi sense, which means that it's not a mercantile trade route. It's really a journey of companions into the unknown. Another good metaphor is the conference of the birds setting out on this process from themselves, ultimately to themselves. So, however you want to see this, we encourage this sense that what we're doing from month to month is a continuity of experience, and to the best of our ability as hopefully creative curators, we will try to support that idea that today it's the original you. Next month, the theme will be wonder. How do these flow into one another and how do they connect? So again, welcome. And as we begin, we'd like to introduce the concept of the beloved community as Elias presented it to us. And to do that, we thought to share a brief clip, a segment from a video of that essay called The Beloved Community. That video will be posted on the Living Sufism web space in its entirety. But to begin with, let's just have a look at a segment, a clip of that. This clip, I think, particularly brings into focus one of the most important and, for me, inspiring aspects of the beloved community. I hope you will feel that as well. So give me a moment while I cue this up. And now I'll share my screen.
I'd like to suggest that we might understand the notion of the beloved community as not only a beautiful future ideal toward which we're called, but that it's also a reality that's here, now. The beloved community is all around us and within us. It's how our bodies function, the community of our organs and blood, nerves and bones, all functioning together in a wondrous wholeness. The air we're breathing, the water we drink, the food we ate at our last meal, all these are testaments to the beloved community we're part of. Everything is working together. The trees draw sustenance from the earth through their roots, from the air and sun through their leaves, and when their individual lives end, they give back to the soil and to the bugs and birds the richness their bodies have collected. That is the beloved community.
Hello, everybody. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you, Puran, for your introduction. Hello, Isha. And the warmest of welcomes to Pir Elias. Elias, we're very happy indeed that you are our first guest on this 2021 series of Living Sufism. And if you're feeling comfortable for us to begin, I've got a question for you.
Fine.
Fine, yeah, good. Okay, so my question's in two parts. First of all, can you share with us, how do you experience the dynamic between yourself and beloved community? And then the second part of the question, what do you do when you experience edges or resistances or thoughts maybe of shortcomings, anything which offers an idea of separation between the two, between yourself and beloved community? So it's that twofoldness.
Wow. And how long do we have?
The rest of your life.
Okay, thank you. And ours. Well, thanks, Suzanne, and thank you, Puran, and all four of you actually for spending these months creating this experimental program, this kind of stepping out of living Sufism mode that we had for 6 years or something. Now using video and all these opportunities for more interaction. It's beautiful. And for bringing this particular theme of the beloved community into focus for all of us to contemplate and act from. You know, it could be that it's one of the pandemic gifts, this the very fact that we've been suffering and feeling more isolated, then it has kind of brought into focus the ways in which we, in which we care for community. We've lost some of the ways in which we normally interact, and so it's brought into a clearer relief what community means for us. And as Paran just mentioned, perhaps when we get released from these our sequesters, there'll be a resurgence. I like that image, a real resurgence of our, let's say, humanity's journey to a deeper and greater realization of beloved community. And as Paran also mentioned, we really have to acknowledge that we're somehow, there's an enormous sense of the social, political, environmental, moral dysfunction of that's the context of our lives now. And it challenges our faith, let's say, our faith that indeed the arc of the moral universe is bending toward justice. And for me, I think for all of us, the ideal of the beloved community because of that, needs to be stirred in us, and we're drawn to it again. And so you asked how it. I'm not quite sure how you formulated that, but how it touches me, and I see it as a mystical. It's our mystical and spiritual view, how it meets the social dimension of our lives. Okay, it's the, normally we think of mystics and as being a little bit otherworldly or concerned with things outside of the practical dimensions of life. And the beloved community is a mystical vision. It's an awakening. But exactly where it touches this social dimension of our lives. So realizing, when I say mystical, realizing how we're embedded in this community of being, right? As I said from Saturn to mother love, and to the air we breathe, and these extraordinary bodies, which are examples, they exemplify the beloved community. And this is the whole interdependent co-arising, right? As the Buddhists would so beautifully say it, of reality itself. This is the beloved community, and it's a mystical recognition. And we Sufis speak of Wadat al-Wajud, right? The oneness of being, the recognition of the oneness of being. And I realized that that's nothing other than the beloved community of the one, isn't it? I mean, this whole manifestation is the beloved community of the one. And getting that, gives us faith, strengthens the faith that I was mentioning, that is being challenged by all this that besets us. And it gives us strength. It gives us a kind of a sense of how to get through, to keep it. It will give us the assurity, the confidence to through, and our descendants, those who come after us, will find their faith and the strength coming from this mystical realization. At least that's how I experience it personally. And I wanted to mention, I don't know if it answers your question, but I did want to mention another aspect which gives us strength, gives me strength, and in this time, and that's the notion, the understanding that the intuition of the beloved community, let's call it, has been around a long time. And it hasn't always been called beloved community, right? It's but it's somehow the spirit that's driven all social change, right? For centuries, millennia. All the struggles for human rights and the revolutions, all the attempts that our forebears made to throw off tyranny and the domination of the powerful, the patriarchs, all the development of moral philosophy and ethics, all of these have contributed to and been expressions of this faith in the beloved community. I was reading in a book the other day, I came upon the preamble of the Constitution of the US. And it's all familiar to us Americans. You Brits may have a different view of it since we were throwing off the tyranny of King George, but okay. But it's just one sentence, and I wanted to read it because it struck me when I read it again, how at the heart of it is that same current of humanity seeking the beloved community. It goes like this: we, the people of the United States, already saying we, the people. Whoa, it's not by the divine right of this king or that one or this local warlord or whatever. It's we, the people. In order to form a more perfect union. Isn't that beautiful? To form a more perfect union, which again is the beloved community, to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain this Constitution. This beautiful expression is a good example, I think, of this current in our people, through history. And that too, along with the mystical recognition of, wow, it's here now. And the recognition that it's been searching for a way to find expression, and through a great deal of struggle and sacrifice, wars, and my goodness, that has brought us to this point. But that too, we've got this powerful wind in our sails, and that too has to give us strength, and it certainly does me. The second part of your question, Suzanne, I'm gonna leave it, otherwise I'll go on way too long. But let's leave that for maybe further conversation, or another session.
In a way, I think you said something about it, because you know, this is what we do when things seem difficult. we do something about it.
Yeah.
When things are wrong, we take action. So, my question is, well, what do we do when we feel the separation? We feel that the experience that it's not happening. Well, we take strength. We start doing something about it. We get the wind in our sails and we do something. We join something. Yeah.
And prior to that is well, as you well know, is this, okay, I'm feeling separate. I'm feeling my own little judgmental self, or I'm irritated or something, or feeling oppressed. Wait, for me, what works is like, it's sort of almost becoming the space in which this being exists. And then as soon as I get larger than my small self, poof, it's not that I get larger, the whole be, enters or opens, it opens. And then action comes from a good place, from the heart of things, from the beloved community of things.
So Elias, one of the things that I've been very struck by in reading and working with the beloved community, that essay, is how you say it a couple of times in the essay, it is here now, and it is not yet. Right. And in what you have just said about, being able to recognize it, and what you said a moment ago about drawing support from evidence that we have been as a human species working in this direction forever. To what extent would you say that making the beloved community real for oneself and being engaged with it is a matter of seeing it, of making it apparent? Right?
Yeah. Making it apparent. We have to be a little careful. You and I had a conversation a while back about, or maybe several of us did, about whether or not to use the article, the, in front of beloved community. And you've been playing both ways. We speak of it, beloved community and the beloved community. The is more of the concept. It's the whole, and the many, many ways in which it's interpreted. So I think that's fair to call it the beloved community in those contexts. But I noticed that with beloved community, it's more intimate. It's as if we're addressing beloved community when we say, just use it without it. We could also use the a beloved community, which is more focused or limited. But I went there because the sense of, we'll always be playing with it. You spoke about recognition of the beloved community. That's more the concept, the beloved community. And that's important. How important is it? Those of us who like to speak about these things with a kind of philosophic bent, yes, it's important. And I think it helps to align us. But we always have to remember that that's why I like beloved community too, because it's intimate and it's really about love, isn't it? I mean, isn't the beloved community about love? I mean, be loved community. Or the way we're going to make community is to love. So that's and that's more important than knowing about the beloved community as a concept. It will be made, by feeling thankful for, as I wrote, somebody in the grocery store doing you some small kindness. There's the exchange of love or the opening of love so that it flows. And that probably is even more important than our understanding it. But understanding is beautiful too. I don't want to diminish that. It certainly does expand the richness of our moment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, why don't we pause here and thank you, Elias, very much for joining us. And we look forward to your being with us in future sessions. We have several more pieces to go through. I mean, we could do this forever, actually. I mean, this conversation would only get richer as we went further. But in service of the other pieces that we need to get through, let's pause here. Mm-hmm. And thank you, Elias, very much. Let's turn our attention to the theme of this month, which is the original you. And to do that, we thought, we want to shift the space a little bit, change the atmosphere a little bit, and begin to welcome what I would say the profound ambiguity of this term, original you. So to do that, we've prepared a brief clip. And by the way, the video clips that we're providing may or may not play well on your system or through Zoom at this time. So if, bear with us if the videos stutter and so forth. All of this material will be posted on the web space so that you can go there and actually look at the videos as they're intended to be seen. But for the moment, let's shift our attention to this. And again, give me a moment while I set up the screen.
Rest in the sound. Rest in the sound. Feel the quiet within. Rest in the sound. Feel the quiet within. Imagine your beginning. Now imagine your ending. Be here now. No time, no space. Keep it simple, one breath at a time. Be at ease.
Oh, we're exploring this idea, this notion of the original you. And for me, this is such a strange phrase, because on the one hand, these two words make perfect sense. Original you, I know what that means. On the other hand, I have no idea what it actually means. And so we thought that the three of us would share our perspectives on how we see this briefly, before we invite you through an exercise, an experience, to begin to fathom this in your own self. Because after all, if any concept requires an original take, it's the original you. For us all to agree what the original you is wouldn't be very original, I don't think. So for me, when I think of original you, I think of origin. Where did I come from? Right? What's my starting point? Where did I show up? And while the easiest answer is conception, birth, it's not really a satisfying answer because it's not entirely true. I may be a bit muddled about this, but my understanding is that in the mother's womb, the ovum that she has already has the ovum of their progeny, something like that. In other words, my grandmother, I was already in my grandmother's grandmother and her grandmother and grandmother and grandmother, generations, countless generations back. And so to look for where I begin in that way is futile. What does that leave me? It only leaves me to say, well, okay, well, origin is where things start, where they come from. And as far as I can tell, if I can't answer this question with time, I have to come back to I originate here, now. Actually, not now, not that now, not this now. You see what I mean? Sufis are very fond, Ibn Arabi especially, of encouraging us to recognize that the universe is continually renewed. Every moment, the universe is new. And this is very difficult for us Westerners to get our heads around because we have this timeline, Big Bang, we have these dinosaurs, humans, we see this progression, and not that that doesn't exist, but in another way, in another sense, the universe is in a state of continual emergence or renewal. And so when I look for the original you, I have to look here, not here, here, whoops, not here, here, if you see what I mean. And, I'm not being facetious. This is really the sort of mystical twist of existence. In Sufi teachings, this idea that the universe is continually renewed is associated in Ibn Arabi's work in particular with the breath of Allah, with the breath of God, that this is the mechanism that enables the universe to be continually new. And that's a tip-off that there is this process of being, not being, being, not being, being, not being. And of course, I still maintain my sense of my me, my name, my work, my relationships, my situations. But at the heart of it, the original you is this. This. Isha, what do you think?
I think I should put a little sign up in front of me that says, all opinions expressed are subject to immediate change. Coming into this moment, I had three particular influences that have a real presence in me right now. One of them is the work we've been doing for the last several months, and particularly intense the last few weeks as we have wanted to get this program framed out for the next 6 months. Another influence is a book that I have been reading that's called The Grace of Dying by Kathleen Dowling Singh. Particularly in it right now because she goes to some length to suggest a sort of a progression through life, approaching what she likes to call the nearing death experience. And of course, in truth, that's where we are every moment, every day. The third influence is, and many of you have heard me wax on about this, is the presence of my grandchildren in my life. When I try to remember my early life, it's quite a few decades between then and now, and it doesn't come so clear anymore. And the memories are, of course, diluted and diluted by time. And it's the same when I think about my daughter and what I observed of her life, especially in the early years. Trying to bring it back, what was really going on. It's not easy. So having these two younger kids and being in their life from the moment of birth virtually to now ages 10 and 13, I have a different sense of what it's how to think about the original you right now in this moment. And I think about it in terms of the native innocence, I would call it, that I experienced with both my grandkids. You know, Ethan walking barely, but toddling down the street and embracing every tree he encountered. Arden, from the very moment she could begin to realize she had a body, finding innately creative ways to move, which she continues to do now. And yet, in that origination and in that first experience, now after even just 10 or 12 years, life has begun to impose upon them. You know, and I don't remember how life imposed itself on my origins, my early days. I don't remember that, but I see it in them. And it poses a question for me for which I have no answer right now anyway, which is, if there is a progression through life as a human, and if we assume that there's a reason that we're here, maybe a purpose, you know, the famous, why am I here? Where did I come from? If there is that, then there is an ongoing, it's not even evolution, because in a sense, the origin is still there, isn't it? I don't think that innocence I talked about, that just incredibly free response to what is happening in the moment, in that little baby's life, in that little child's life, I don't think that goes away. I don't think it disappears somewhere. And in the moment now, I find myself relating to that as much as anything as a version perhaps of original you, and how over the course of my life, I'm really working to find opportunities to allow that to arise again, to tap into that again. And I think, you know, for now, that's pretty much where I've landed right now in the moment. Suzanne,
Right.
what do you think about this?
So when I think about that question, I don't think about it. I don't know how to think about it, because I think every minute I'd think something different and I wouldn't be sure if it was right. I agree with both of you in that it's in the moment. And it's something that I feel is experiential. So when I try and take on board, what does original you, what does original me mean to me? It's how I am without anything extra. It's how I am with nothing added and nothing taken away. It's how I am without any kind of artifice or pretense. It's a deep sincerity, and it's true, and it's completely ordinary. And so sometimes I've kind of, it's like it's there all the time, actually. It is there all the time. Like you said about the innocence, it is there all the time. But sometimes I've constructed stuff. So I'm blind kind of to my own innocence. So it's a kind of felt sense. It's like if I say to myself, the ground of being, then I can drop into something. Well, that's just words I'm saying, but there's something sensory that happens as well. And then there's a kind of landing and a peacefulness. And then I recall what Per Elias said as well about when he feels separate, what he does is he expands into his own space, except it's not an expansion exactly. It's just, I guess you forget to narrow. You know, forget to contain somehow. And that's how it feels to me, the original me, the original you. And even I prefer that without the as well, because I don't know that there's a the in it, because I agree with Puran as well. It changes all the time, and yet there is something Maybe it is the breath of God that remains the same. So I had the task of summing this up at the end, before we move on to the next thing. And what arises for me is how each of us, we've each got our own way of experiencing it or describing it, thinking about it, pursuing it, understanding it, engaging with these things, whether it's beloved community, whether it's original you, and how we drop into our original you. But really where we're the same is that it's in the moment. Mm-hmm. And I think now hand over to Isha, who's going to take us further into the moment and into our original meanesses.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you.
We've been sitting for quite a while now and been listening to a lot of words. So I wanted to invite anyone who would like to just stand up for a minute and stretch a bit, just in place. It's not a break as such. And I thought it might be helpful to remember our bodies. Take a few breaths, take a look around, reminding where you are. So I'm going to do that just for a second. And I invite you to as well. Oh. Oh, that is so much better. No. Okay, so please go ahead and settle back in as you will. And a reminder, this is a good time to remind you to, because we've been saying it over and over again in the emails we've sent out as well, to have your paper and pen or pencil, whatever you're going to use, nearby and accessible. You don't need it right this second, but to know that you'll have it. So let's just sit now for a moment. Your eyes can be opened or closed. Feel your breath in and out. Now place your hand on your heart and just continue to breathe. As you rest with awareness, feel the movement of your chest as your breath passes through your body. As the silence grows, perhaps you can feel the beat of your heart, the rhythm of the pulse within your body as it attunes to your breath. Just breathe. When you like, you can allow your hand to relax now in your lap or wherever it's comfortable for you. It's becoming a different sort of quiet now, isn't it? You're creating a space, your space, a resonant space, a space in which the words next spoken will enter from my breath to yours. Original you, original me. I seem to have a through story, past to present to future, something that carries that me along. Yet how much of that me experience is really mine? Where am I really in all of this? How can I trust what appears before me, within me? Our session together today is experiential. We are calling it Illuminations. We hope it will present you with opportunities to bring light upon your sense of original you. A light that illuminates. A light that offers a softening of all those edges of certainty and encourages an inner lightness of being to arise. So right here, right now, come along with me to consider the thread which passes through all our lives, the warp and weft of our experience, our imaginations, our inspirations, creating depth, context, texture, shadow, and light. It is at once presence and occurrence, breath in, breath out, spaciousness, shadings of tone and color, suggesting something there, just there, seen, felt, touched, fading, and again arising. That light and lightness of being may be nothing more than an inner radiance bringing a brief moment of clarity. For our first illuminating exercise in presence, we have asked you to have paper and pencil or whatever you have at hand. And as you listen to the contemplation I will offer, relax into the experience and allow your hand free-flowing expression. Perhaps think of this somewhere between doodling, automatic writing, abstract drawing. And we invite you to keep these creations, perhaps to develop them in coming weeks. Allow the pencil or pen or brush to move across the paper and take your hand, your arm, your shoulder on the journey too. Whatever is wanting to be drawn here, let it take form. If your eyes want to close from time to time, allow them. If they want to remain open, let them. So now settle in. Find your breath. Attentive. Comfortable. As we begin, an image will appear on the screen. It has no purpose beyond allowing spaciousness to remain with you. Imagine your beginning. Imagine your ending. Sit with no time or space. Keep it simple. Don't look back. Let it go. See what is here. See what is here. Feel what is here. One breath at a time. Do not fear the next step. Be at ease. For here is the answer. Here is the answer right in front of you. You can't see it. You can't see it. You can only see reflections. Still, it is right here. Let the stories go. There is no need for expectations now. You know there is nowhere to be other than here. You know there is no one to be other than you. Move beyond hesitation and doubt. Move beyond hesitation and doubt. Rest in the stillness. Rest now in the stillness. And in this stillness, you may see, even if only in that eternal moment, the original you.
Now to fill the space with words that I do need to. I'm here now to offer, for those of us who would like it, a way for us to take this home. And so what we have created and what we're going to offer is what we called an extended chilla. A chilla is, in Sufi terms, a task which takes on a spiritual light, a meaningfulness, according to the prayerful intent of the individual undertaking it. This chilla, as an extended chilla, will continue then throughout the series, through this beloved community series. From this moment here, through to our June session, and possibly even maybe beyond that. And it's called Inner Pilgrimage. A pilgrimage is deep work. It involves body and mind and soul, journeying alone to a sacred destination. A pilgrimage requires determination, a stubborn persistence, often walking through hard terrain, enduring sore feet, cold and tired bodies. Here we're calling upon you to enter into it as an inner journey. Here the challenges and the changing landscapes will be within. Each of our 6 Living Sufism sessions offers us a particular lens through which we might view this inner landscape. From today's original you, through next month's wonder, onto the sacred story, towards embracing paradox, into the most right thing, and then whoosh and wish. All the time embracing and being embraced by our theme of beloved community. And so each month we will offer different lens through which we can reflect into this chiller. Well, today our journey has begun. And so in truth has our journey alone. I offer 3 reflections today for the start of the inner pilgrimage. And you may discover more, of course, because a chiller is personal. So the first reflection, the first thought, we invite you to develop, plan, prepare, engage in an inner pilgrimage for yourself. It's not for us to say who or when or where. It's not for us to offer a starting point or a destination or even a route map. It's likely that even as you plan and prepare, that you will discover that there are aspects that you're not certain of, and other aspects that seem so clear now. This is what you must do. This is how I must do it. And then as time moves on, that certainty just fades. Something else arises. Something else is asked of you. You must follow that. At the same time, a pilgrimage does require planning and preparation. You don't just wake up in the morning and decide to go off for 3 weeks. What is it that you need to do? That's the first reflection. Second is to uncover, acknowledge, understand your beliefs and ideas and language about original you. How would you describe it? How do you feel it? What does it mean to you? What veils, what covers, what hides, what disguises original you? What nourishes, sustains, opens, and brings forth original you? What does your original you say to you about inner pilgrimage? What does your planning and preparing for this pilgrimage tell you about original you? And then our third, the third aspect, consider. We invite you to consider. You don't have to. Create an invocation to call your original self as the beloved, as this beloved, which you might then use as a spiritual practice or an opportunity for focus or for friendship during your pilgrimage. You might do this anyway without the pilgrimage. It's perhaps a key point to original you. The invocation might be verbal or a movement or a melody or a mixture, because an invocation is at the same time a call and a response. We're familiar with using invocations to call upon the beloved, capital T, capital B. Oh beloved, Bismillah, oh great mother, toward the one, oh thou, Om. We use body movements, we pray, we bless, put hands on hearts. So many ways we call in the beloved. And we use it in our day-to-day lives. We try and see the beloved in other people. My beloved. Oh, my darling. Oh, my dear. My sweet friend. Hello. Hi. We smile. These ways we have of bringing the beloved that we see in another to ourselves. And what we're asking you to do, what we're inviting of you, is to recognize and acknowledge and call upon this beloved, the one that resides within us, me, the me. So this is how we might take it home, if you so wish. Our chiller will be posted up onto the Living Sufism resources page, which I believe will be live this coming Wednesday, and I think Puran will be able to tell us more about these things now. Thank you, Puran.
Thank you, Suzanne. Wow. Thank you very much. So we're at the conclusion of our time, and I did want to mention the web space that we're preparing, what Suzanne has referred to as the Living Sufism resources page, and I keep referring to it as the web space. Our intention is, to the best of our ability, to make that more robust this year than it's ever been. So that means that we and others will be posting information there. Recording of this session will be there. The videos that we played today, and also the longer video, the full video of Beloved Community that we've done based on Elias's essay will be there. We're also going to provide ways for you to communicate with us. It's going to be important if we are to invest the beloved community with both love and practical reality for us to do this together. And so we will have forms and occasional questionnaires so that we can get feedback, but also so that we might open the space for your comments and your resources. We're not sure yet exactly how we're going to do this. As Elias mentioned, this is experimental, but our intention is that by Wednesday, if you go to the Living Sufism website, which you can get to by going to sufiway.org, click on programs, click on Living Sufism, that will take you ultimately, there's another click involved, to this web space that we're creating specifically for this Living Sufism series. I would like to add my encouragement to what Suzanne has just proposed. In effect, she's inviting us to, as I understand it, to deepen our experience of this caravan together by locating our own inner journey. And as she suggested, this inner journey, this inner pilgrimage, what popped up in my mind is seeing sort of lights along the way that would lead and guide us and introduce us to another way to see, experience, be with beloved community, so that we're continually reminding ourselves, oh, wait, this is beloved community. My neighbors, this is beloved community. It's snowing today. This is beloved community. And what popped to mind is that in the beloved community, the essay that Elias posted in September, he quotes Paul Tillich as saying, beloved community is here now in every act of love, in every manifestation of truth, in every moment of joy, in every experience of the holy. These are reliable lights. So thank you again for joining us. Rather than closing with a prayer, we thought we might close with a poem that arrived recently. So I'll hand it over to Isha to do that. And once that poem is concluded, we will close the seminar. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you both. As we've been exploring the original you over the last weeks, months really, it should be no surprise that some small gift such as this poem would arrive from the presence of illumination. The beginning is just an intimation, perhaps a slight warmth in the body. Gradually a hint of not quite morning, that earliest return of dawn when the darkness merges ever so slightly. Then a flicker of light, a candle's movement in a distant breeze. It grows upon you, within you, bringing something akin to understanding, realization, an insight wholly present. And as you open your eyes, that moment of grace remains, illuminating all you see.